Byron White here with Mary Morrood. Mary, welcome.
Hi, Byron. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Right on. I'm just going to go through a few practicalities for the day. I assume everyone's seeing my screen here. And if so, I will chime along and show a couple of things. Before we begin, this webinar is being recorded, as all of ours are, and look for an email with a link to a recording and the ability to download the deck. We'll have at least a sort of a 15-minute Q&A at the end. I will have some questions line up in my curious nature that I'll run through myself with Mary, but then after that, and by the way, we're in our new offices. You can hear some fun sirens outside. We're right across from the Boston Garden here in downtown Boston. Sorry about the noise, but let's see, we've got some action on Twitter happening with the pound sign right on, so that'll be fun for people. And then here's a quick little factoid that I'd love to tell everybody. I was talking with Kate a little bit about, we introduced myself, and I'm like, Kate, I think people know who we are, and sometimes we get new people on the show, but on the webinar, but I'm not sure if anybody cares about this, but it's sort of an interesting factoid. When I left college, I was a philosophy undergraduate major, and I got a job with Arthur Andersen, of all things, to go back to school to get my MSPA. And strangely enough, I had some interesting things going on in my life, one of which was I loved motorcycles. More specifically, I had a Triumph 1969 Bonneville motorcycle with a license plate on the back of it that said "Sweet." And let me tell you, when I walked into Arthur Andersen with this motorcycle one day, I became quickly the conversation piece of, is that the Byron White that works at Arthur Andersen that's driving a motorcycle that has a license plate that says "Sweet" on it? So I'm all for adventure and taking on big challenges, and we're going to take on a big challenge today with social media and try to figure out, with Mary's help, how we can really get serious about social media marketing and align ourselves with the right goals, namely profit and PR and SEO. So I'm super excited to hear Mary's presentation today. And without further ado, Mary is rather than a last name Morrood, you should have a last name Mogul. You've been traveling the world and speaking about this fine topic we're going to hear about. You also write regularly for Search Engine Watch and, of course, the Aim Clear blog. And really, you've done an incredible amount you've accomplished quite a bit for being such a young, happy person. So hats off to you for all that you've done and how deeply you've chosen to dive into the topic that you're going to speak about today and others that surround it. So without further ado, I'm going to encourage everybody to go quickly over to help our poll, and this will actually help Mary a little bit as well, and that will be fun for everybody to sort of dive into. If you could just sort of answer these questions right now, that would be awesome. And without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Mary. So I'm going to change the presenter.
Yep.
I guess.
I see some results of the poll coming in. It looks like almost everybody has voted with Facebook as most valuable, then LinkedIn. So I'll show you the results so you can see where you fall. Facebook,
nice.
LinkedIn, then Twitter. I'm interested what that other is, so feel free to chat in what your other channel is. And then, right over to Mary.
Right on. Mary, the floor is now yours. I've changed the presenter, I believe, over to you.
Excellent. I'll start showing my screen. All right. Can you see it okay?
Yes. Fabulous. I will mute the sirens in the background, but I will chime in as needed with a couple questions throughout the presentation to spice it up. And without further ado, over to you.
Excellent. Well, welcome everybody, and again, thank you for having me. I love speaking at conferences, writing. Webinars are so much fun. They're so interesting though because you don't get that real-time feedback. But I love doing them and hope you guys get a lot from this. So today we're going to talk about some serious and maybe not so serious, fun at times, social media marketing for profit, PR, and SEO. So today we're going to talk about how to actually acquire links and social signals and why they are critical for SEO. The campaign mechanisms for really great success. I pulled these out of tactics that I see not only new people on our team, but you know, people in the industry and from auditing accounts, some things that they overlook, or you know, things that can just do that little tweak that makes a campaign that much more successful. We have some potent PR and blogger and writer targeting to share with you, and that's without a doubt my first favorite thing to do is Facebook targeting, and then my second favorite thing is packaging. And what we mean by packaging when it comes to content and social media is packaging is just the copy and the image that goes along with the link and makes it look really nice and social. So I'm sure all of you content producers have your OG tags all spiffed up and optimized and up to date, but we'll go through some other options, how to reshare, share more, and get the most value and the most legs out of every piece of content. So yes, social signals matter and they impact SEO. Since the Hummingbird update, we've kind of realized that Google has always been able to look at social signals. They've always been able to see them, but they just kind of didn't know what to do with them. Eric Enge wrote this really great post on Search Engine Land, and he did a hangout with Danny Sullivan, and they kind of kicked around back and forth about what social signals really mean to Google's algorithm. And so check that out. I encourage you to. It's maybe like a 5-minute, 3-minute hangout, so really quick. But ultimately, yes, social signals matter. And that's everything from people clicking like on your content piece on your website from that little Facebook chicklet, or you know, liking and social, traffic from social, etc. So that's not to say that you get 100+ ones from Google Plus on your post and your content's automatically going to rise to the top of the search. So we know better than that. We know that there's a whole lot of other things that go into it. I believe it was Danny Sullivan who kind of came up with this analogy, but I love it because it just makes so much sense, especially for those of us who are state-based. We can really we can really like grab onto this theory. So links back in the old day were kind of like voting for the president in the early colonies of the United States. So you could only vote for the president if you were a man, if you were white, and if you were rich. So like if you owned property. So think about that as an analogy for early website owners. So people who owned domains, who wrote and linked to other websites, was their way of casting a vote for other pieces of content, other websites. So you really had to have your own website before you could vote for that other piece of content or other website. With the inundation of social media, and of course, times changed in the United States. Everyone can vote now. With social media, everyone kind of has their own little website or their own little, you know, staked claim in the internet, where they say, this is what I like, this is what's on my mind, this is what I'm sharing, this is what's cool right now to me. So everyone kind of has their own, like, whatever, rented apartment, because no one owns Facebook except Mark Zuckerberg. So we all have our own little rented apartment online, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Reddit profiles, etc. But like, this is what Google's looking at now. They're looking at our rented pieces of property and what we're talking about and what we're posting about and all the traffic that's coming from those. So in terms of content distribution, what are we looking for when it comes to distributing our content? Ultimately, we want to maybe generate money for our affiliates, friendship with our community. We want our content to be of value to them. We also want our content to put our brand or us in the frame of mind of our consumers that we are thought leaders and we are, changing the world and paving new paths, and like we're the ones that they should look to for X, X, whatever industry you're in, whatever product you're selling. We also want to do lead gen, and we want cookie pools. And by cookie pools, I mean capturing everyone who comes to your site, whether it's from search, whether it's from social, capturing all those people into a refined cookie pool that you can then later pass on to performance marketers to exploit, or to then further nurture them into the buying process. And certainly we could rant on about the decrease of organic social reach. Facebook reach is now down to like 1 to 2%. Twitter reach is maybe going away faster than like we're prepared for, but that doesn't really matter because like content and the targeting right now is like at a peak where it is the greatest, and targeting almost blows the whole like organic reach out of the water. Whatever, I'm willing to pay for my content and those thought leadership pieces to really make the right impression with the right audience. I don't care if they liked me 5 years ago, they may not be relevant anymore. But the thing about content is you have to make it great. Like, it has to give you goosebumps, it has to make you smile, it has to boil your blood, right? It has to provide the reader a benefit. Maybe it's making them feel like they are a part of a community, or like everyone or someone else thinks the way that they do. So make it great. And I know everyone says that, like, it has to be good content, but the truth is, like, you read a crappy piece of content, people are going to think it's crap, and it's not, it's not going to do you any good. So content is worth a great investment. And great can mean so many things depending on your own organization, your own internal structure. But if you have to go outside and record yourself changing the wheel of a tire for your blog or your boss or your client, go do it. Airbnb had this new A Night At recap recently, and I know Byron is out in Boston, so I thought I'd throw this in. I watched this just yesterday, and like, maybe it's just like I'm emotional with the seasons changing or Mercury in retrograde, but like it gave me the sniffles. So if you're a Boston Red Sox fan, check that out because it's pretty cool. They wrote about Fenway Park and staying there. Targeting in social is so great to the point where you can target writers, you can target PR professionals, you can target people who work at the New York Times with your content. And this is a great way. I love doing this because it makes them think that it's their idea. It makes them think that they stumbled upon it and decided to write about it for yourself. So like this strategy, promoting your content via social, is your new link building strategy. So we'll jump to some often overlooked campaign mechanics because we have a lot to talk about when it comes to creative. Excuse me, drink of coffee. Okay.
While you're there,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, hey, Mary, your sound is cutting out. Can you repeat yourself?
Sure. Here, let me throw some earbuds in. Maybe this will improve. All right. How does it sound?
Sounds good to me.
Excellent.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So again, these are certain things that I see tried and true business professionals missing when doing Facebook campaigns. Even some of some things that I forget sometimes. So get out a sheet of paper, make a little checklist. Placements. These are one of the most important things to pay attention to. So obviously you package your content and it looks the best when it is displayed on the news feed. So not the right column, not the audience network. So it has that big, beautiful image, the headline, the nice big headline, you have your update text and link description. You not only get the most real estate when it comes to doing your ads this way and selecting these placements, but it also is more consistent. So if you leave the desktop right column placement selected, which Facebook makes all of these selected by default, by the way. So it's up to you as an advertiser to really pick and choose which ones are providing you the best ROI. And I'll say right now, in our experience, it's been the mobile newsfeed and the desktop newsfeed. If you're going to leave the desktop right column open, just be aware that the headline, which is normally underneath the photo in the newsfeed, is on top of the body copy in the right column, whereas when you read it in the newsfeed, the body copy is what's above the image, and then you have the image, and then it's the headline. So just a heads up, people may read things backwards if you've written it intentionally, which you very much should when you're doing this packaging. So a couple of bidding strategies: always test for your audience, but it's a good rule of thumb that a small audience, you want to overbid your CPCs. A large audience, you have a auto-optimized CPM. Oftentimes, CPM will get you the greater reach, but CPC will get you more efficient clicks. Another important thing to do is to grab your conversion pixel. So this doesn't have to be, thinking about like shopping. It can be someone who maybe contacted you through your blog, or it could be someone who hit 3 specific other blog pieces that you wrote within that time frame. So people who are like really engaged, you want to be sure you're tracking that. So whether it's people who reached out to you via your blog, maybe visited 2 or more other blogs of yours on your domain, or perhaps like spent a certain amount of time. Optimized CPM also works best when your audience size is at least 500,000 to 1 million. That's what works best. That's what Facebook tells us. But some bidding tactics, like we talked about, you want to select your budget and schedule in your ad set, and unfortunately Facebook really hides your bidding here, so you have to click to show advanced options. It will ultimately default to optimize for post engagement, which is not surprising. Facebook wants to keep everyone on Facebook, interacting on Facebook. But we as content marketers, we want to get people off to our own website and then be able to cookie them, convert them there. So what we do is we do optimize for clicks, and then we can either set the desired amount we want to pay per click, or we can let the system do its own thing and kind of get the most clicks at the best price, which is what we typically set it for initially, and then we will oftentimes like optimize down towards a desired CPC. Time of day, so ad scheduling is something that's pretty new, and it's something that is, again, also kind of hidden in Facebook's budget and schedule. So you want to show advanced options, and ad scheduling is below that as well. Here you can select when your ads will be shown, or when your content promotion will be shown between the hours of, let's see, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. here. The really great thing about this is that you don't have to do any time zone calculations. This is reflective of people's, your targets in their own time zone. So though I'm in Minnesota, hey Minnesotans, Duluth, where it's like 9 a.m. here, it's going to be, 7 a.m. on the West Coast. It's going to be 10 o'clock on the East Coast. So it'll just shut off at 9 a.m. wherever your users are. Their own 9 a.m., let's say. So ultimately, like I said, CPC gives you less reach, but more clicks, more efficient clicks. And typically with CPC, we see a higher CTR. You will pay more for reaching more people, so you get a bit of a higher eCPM. these were taken from tests that we did that were specifically CPC versus CPM. Same audience, same packaging, same blog post, same amount of money, and this is what we found. So like the CPN, less clicks, way more reach, lower CTR. So ultimately, say up to you and what your objective is for your campaigns, but always like pay attention to the CTR. That will impact how much you pay for ads in the future. It's also important that you want clicks to your website, not just clicks, and that's bidding CPC is a way to get more clicks to your website and get those users in your own cookie pools. So we'll chat about some targeting for links and PR next. Again, those are just some high-level campaign mechanics that I see often overlooked and wanted to bring those to y'all's attention. There is a bevy of writers, reporters, anchors on Facebook. This only scratches the surface, but we've these are all available in job title targeting in Facebook. So you have news anchors, writers, bloggers, and you can find job titles in Facebook targeting under more demographics. So you have editors-in-chief, the ones pulling the strings, really. You have journalists, reporters, those on the front lines, crafting the stories. You have senior political correspondents. You can get even really specific depending on what your content style is, what you're writing about. You can target war correspondents or international correspondents, producers and showrunners, right? So understand that it's not all about whoever's writing the piece of content. They have to get buy-in from their senior senior co-workers to actually get things published. So you also have interests. You can target writers by interest, so people who like the Association for Education and Journalism or the American Copy Editors Society, right? So like I'm really into writing, but like holy cow, I'm not that into writing, right? So people who like professional associations are usually in jobs that are directly related to those professional associations. There's also a ton of blogger job titles. You can also find these bloggers via the interest targeting. But bloggers are really awesome because they will likely be less picky than serious news organizations like the Wall Street Journal to link to your content or maybe write in tandem with you. So blogger outreach is a great way to target these people in Facebook. You can also target them by the tools that they use, and the tools that they use are like content management systems, WordPress, Blogger, the service, etc. The real cool thing is like you can mash up like your job titles, so like blogger, writers, editors in the job title, and then add on interest about specifically what you're writing about. So if you're writing a piece about parenting and hipster fathers, you can target writers who work at the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Star Tribune. So they're writers and editors, and they're interested in parenthood or specifically fatherhood as like a hobby. I don't want to say it's a hobby, but like they've shown interest. Fatherhood actually is one of those really cool targeting categories in Facebook. So you have motherhood, parenting, fatherhood, really, really cool stuff. So fatherhood incorporates like any of those tertiary blogs that like daddy bloggers are doing. So all those individual interests are rolled up into this one category. So you could target writers of major publications who are really into fatherhood and get them digesting your content that way. We also have just a ton of public relations job titles, and these can get really, really specific. And again, with the layering, so you can target writers, but one thing that we love to do is targeting people who like Reddit, Dig, or Stumble Upon, right? Because those are three social platforms that really, really, really hate to be marketed to. and they can smell it. Like, they're smarter than the average bear. They can smell a marketing message a mile away. But you know what works? Is that when you get a Redditor or a Digger or a Stumbler to post your content for you, and then you make them think they thought of it by putting it into their Facebook newsfeed. It's all about getting them to discover your content and getting them to post it on Reddit, on Dig, on Stumbler.
Mary, could you give an example of that particular case? It's a fabulous point you're making, but how do you make them feel like they thought of it? How you craft it? Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So how you make someone think they thought about posting it on Reddit, Dig, or Stumble Upon, that is a good question. It's all about the really great creative packaging, and you could almost tease it and say, like, I can't believe I didn't find this on Reddit first, you know? Like, oh, if I were a Redditor, I'd be like, what? I want to be the first person, right?
Got it.
Okay, so we'll move on to creative, and I typically don't do this with my slides, but I think that this really illustrates creative in social, and it's all about kind of making, drawing your eye to certain words or certain things that matter to who you're targeting. So this is not the most readable way to write creative, but it's definitely a way that gets people's eyes on it longer. And so what we do with social packaging is we try to draw people's eyes to the important keywords. So whether we do it in parentheses or in all caps, or we hashtag it, and the hashtag means nothing, but it turned blue. So ultimately, and we could have a whole session about creative and packaging and images for social, because it's really that nuanced, but we'll talk at a high level. So when it comes to writing ads or packaging content in social, it's miles different than it is for maybe traditional PPC or just writing for SEO, right? So you're writing for SEO, you're writing for machines, right? And feeding them keywords. And you certainly still want keywords in your packaging, but here we're walking a fine line between fitting in tonally to the platform. So like Facebook is really about pretty fun stuff, right? Like people go there to like hang out, spend some time, not think too hard, maybe catch up on what's going on. So your content has to fit in a casual nature, relevant to the reader who's reading it, and yet be compelling enough to get them to click. And that's a fine line we walk, because ultimately ads, and I will use air quotes, so like ads in Facebook that are like, buy this now, click here, like, retweet, comment, share, like the demanding ones, people are turned off by that. They want to do things in their own time, in their own way, and your whole like blaring about what you want them to do isn't going to get them to do much. And also, like, people don't like ads on Facebook. So as much as you can tone your words, tone your packaging into something that's a little more fun, frivolous, interesting, pique their curiosity, like that's what's going to get users to click. But ultimately, it's really about the images, and we'll get into that in just a second. So when we do social packaging, just like traditional search PPC, it's still important to keep the keywords in the upper left. And this is really, really powerful when you're writing about or speaking directly to a certain audience that is hard to target. So for example, if I wrote a blog post about how to decrease your asthma symptoms in the changing seasons, I want to, target people who have asthma. And, truly, there aren't very many people on Facebook who say, yeah, I have asthma, and I like it. Or like, here's my prescription that I've liked on my pharmacist page that, makes me think that, or makes marketers think that I have asthma. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? So in those instances where you have to target a more general population, so like cast your net wide and qualify them with copy. So you want to call out specific people, so like asthma sufferers or bedwetters, women over 35, like moms with a second job. You want to call out to those specific audiences so that those audiences know that you're writing exactly for them. You're writing about them, and it's highly relevant to them. Also great to @mention or plus mention for Google+. @mention in Facebook and Twitter. It not only gives your post a bit more organic reach, it will change the text to blue so that, connected third party is in blue. It is like linked to their page. But again, it's about changing the colors and changing the text a little bit to draw the eye to the important keywords. So like an important third party or an important keyword. Same thing with hashtags. So hashtags in Facebook don't really mean that much. They don't really mean that much in general. But you can put hashtags in front of any word that you think is really important, or maybe like categorizes the whole sentiment of your post. And what's great about that is that it changes the color to blue. So @mentioning, hashtagging in Facebook will change the text color to blue for that entity or that word, which again draws the eye. And it's all about drawing the eye from the upper left to the bottom right. And so I'll give a brief example of getting more organic proclivity from an @mention. So I like Game of Thrones, and I don't follow Vox, the publication, but I always see them in my newsfeed because they wrote about Game of Thrones, and then they @mention them in their writing about them. So, Facebook will say like, hey, this publication is talking about something you like. And you know what? I always end up reading it because I'm a sucker. You also want softer call to action. So again, you want to pique their curiosity. You don't want to give away the farm. And you don't want to say like, click now, click here, read this right now. Certainly you can play around with those words, but again, softer call to action works a whole lot better. Questions. I love questions as a way to engage your audience, like this example from I freaking love science. How many of these were you taught, right? 5 science facts, quote, that we learned at school that are plain wrong. And I'm asking myself, how many of these did I actually learn and still believe today? So I'm going to read this post. Turns out I learned 5 facts that were wrong. They were all wrong. In Google+, pretty great. You can stylize your text in Google+. Asterisks around words, make them bold. Underscores make them appear in italics, and then hyphens will strike through keywords, which I love doing strike-throughs. They're kind of fun. When you're writing a blog post, you want to craft your creative packaging in a couple of different ways. So you don't want to craft a blog post, share it once, and then be done with it and hope people picked it up or whatever. No, you want to share it a couple different times in a couple different ways. So you want to package them differently and kind of have prompts to begin with. So first is like a book club style, and that's kind of like the science one. Ask a question. So after you read the post, what would be a natural question to ask? Reader's Digest. So this is breaking down the blog post into the high-level points, like here's what you're going to learn or read about in this post. The WTF always, always, always works. I don't know why, but like people are just so darn curious in Facebook when you write things that don't make sense at all. So pull the, like the really interesting piece about about the post and put it in the update. So you could say like we have politics going on right now, which is just so like rich in terms of WTF moments. So you could say like Donald Trump said what about Carly Fiorina, and then follow that up with her new ad that came out. Holy cow, that was perfect. You can also do a plain English version, so like in a nutshell, what is this post about? and it might just be the headline that you used. So for a plain English one, crazy out-of-the-box one, Reader's Digest, and ask a question. Love that tactic. Okay, so thumb stoppers. We have about 20 minutes left. We're almost there. Thumb stoppers. So this word is from a New York Times article. Facebook thought of it. This was a great post, and I encourage you to read it, especially if your content is about something that's really not sexy, like krill oil, supplements, yeah, that kind of stuff, like really not cool stuff. That's really hard to talk about and write about and get people engaged with. So New York Times, how Facebook sold you krill oil. They talked about thumb stoppers. I was like, I get it, yes. Stopping the thumb from scrolling. So what creates a thumb stopper? Images. And I highlight this image not because it's the best one, but it's pretty darn good. So the first thing that you saw when you went to this slide was most certainly the image. It's what gets our thumbs to stop. It's what draws our eye. I would have certainly put the free trial maybe in the bottom right. Maybe in a different way, enhance the colors. But what you look at first when it comes to Facebook posts is not the update. It's the image. That's what gets you to stop. And so I encourage you to use images that don't make sense, that just look plain weird, that are bright, that are bold. Yeah, plain weird. Weird images work like a charm. Like, even if they're unrelated, completely unrelated to the topic, they will often outperform, like the boring stock image photos. So people are going to stop and look at the image first. Next, they're going to probably read the headline. So after you look at the image, your eyes go naturally down, and it's also bigger text, so you're going to read the headline. And then maybe your reader will skip back up and see what you said in the update. Truly, I don't think many people read much about in the link description, so just be sure that you don't have anything that's of value in there. So if what you wrote in your link description is what you're leaning on to get people to click, like you think they're going to read the update, look at the image, and then read the headline, and then read the link description, and that's when they're going to click. No, they're not. You have about 25 characters in the headline to get them hooked, and that has to be at the left of the headline. So the first few words, make sure you hook them within the first 25 characters of the headline and the update, but you're really going to get them to stop with that image. And to emphasize why images matter the most, so Airbnb posted this this update on their page once Brian Chesky was announced to serve as a presidential ambassador for global entrepreneurship, which is pretty awesome. The White House, like a budding CEO, is going to be working with the president. That's freaking cool. But you check out the comments, and everyone's talking about the wall color. Like, they love turquoise so much. They don't care what the post says. They love the wall color. Images. It's what people are going to pay attention to. So next we'll talk about image processing, but first we have a poll. So we'll pop that up.
Yep, launching the poll.
And I'll take a sip of coffee.
Yeah.
Maybe take
get
a breath.
some caffeine in and take a breath, going so fast. All right, guys, do you treat, aka process or enhance your images before sharing them on social media? So yes, no, or you're not exactly sure. I don't, probably should, but I see almost all of you guys have voted. I'll keep it open for another second. It looks like at least half of you do treat your images, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that.
Excellent.
Mary.
Excellent. So great that you guys are processing and enhancing your images. I will say that we certainly do that every time, and we'll do it specifically for Facebook, we'll do it specifically for Twitter, and we'll do it specifically for LinkedIn to make sure that every which way it's shared in social is the best possible way. I will say that this image processing steps that we're going through, we go through this in our AimClear workshop around SMXs, and I have to say I just heard back from one of our attendees who said, thanks for the image processing tips. Like, that alone paid for my workshop attendance. So really impactful, and honestly, this is for design wannabes. I'm not a designer. I will say that right now. I'm not super technical, but I know enough to do this really well. And I will say that, like, if you have designers or working with designers, they're gonna hate this. They're gonna hate it because you want your images to look almost wrong. You want them to glow and like look sort of abnormal almost. And designers like hate that because it's like it looks wrong and it's not like the most pleasing thing to the eye. But you know what? It's the thing that captures the most attention in Facebook. It's the thumb stopper. It's the thing that's going to get them to stop scrolling. So image processing in 5 steps, and this is really one of the last things we're going to touch on today before we dive into Q&A. First, you want to frame and crop your image, and then you want to sharpen that image. Next, you're going to select, and this step you can skip if you have an image where you don't feel like you need to select a certain piece and enhance it, but in the example we'll show, we select a yellow t-shirt and really bring that yellow out. Then we're going to crank up the saturation on the whole image and then increase or decrease the brightness and then pump up the contrast. So we'll go through a couple steps here. So first you're going to choose your image, and this is going to be a post, I think it just got published today in Marketing Land and Search Engine Land for our targeting hot house. We're targeting dads in Facebook. So I grabbed a whole bunch of images of dads, and like I'm going to be honest, it made my ovaries ache a little bit. They're so cute. Dads with their kids, taking selfies, looking cool, looking adorable. So we ended up choosing the image on the far left, and I'm going to tell you why. First, I love the second image with all the different colors, and honestly, that's great. But it wasn't close up enough on the dad and the daughter's face. So I really want to see the emotion. The third image, maybe a little washed out. I love the little boy; he's pretty cute, but he was a close runner-up. The fourth image, oh God, I love that girl. She is just hamming it up for the camera, and that's pretty adorable. But we found that the saturation of the colors in the first image and that yellow was really going to pop in social. Also, I'll note that the yellow is on the left, or on the right, excuse me. I'm terrible with my directions. I'm a really good driver, though, so that's good. So yellow is on the right, and what we want to do is we want to draw people's eye from the top left to the bottom right, right? So we want to draw their eye all the way through the ad, and so having that pop of color on the bottom right is going to draw the eye that way. And if it were on the left, that's fine. We can flip it. We can flip the image. So here's our image, and this is what it looks like naturally, and so it looks pretty great. So even if you didn't touch it up or do anything with it, great image. I'm going to show you how treating it can really make a big difference. So first we want to zoom and crop. So we're going to crop really close to the face because that's where people's emotion comes from. And what we'll do is we'll start with an optimized canvas. So we always start with 1200 by 628, which is the Facebook ratio, and then we're going to resize, put the image in, and reframe it. And maybe you want to, tilt it a little bit more or put it completely on its side. I know Marty has done some crazy things, and it, surprisingly works every time. The crazier, the better. So we have the image that's the original image that's a little bit more zoomed out, and then we have the next one that's cropped in and sharpened. So I don't like to over sharpen it, but just pump it up a little bit, and then we're going to select a certain color piece in the image, and typically it's maybe lips, and we're going to make them redder, or maybe it's like an eye color and we're going to make it bluer. Maybe it's this yellow shirt and we're going to make it yellower, more yellow. So we're going to take certain colors that contrast Facebook's blue and white design and really pump up the saturation there. So we select them with our little wand tools, and then we pump up the saturation here, and then you can see a little bit of a change there. And then we change the brightness and increase the contrast. So what we did here and here's a little tip, bright images or bright things that you want to increase the contrast of that are already bright, you want to actually decrease the brightness, which gives a little more depth to the shadows for the tool to really increase that contrast. So what we want to do is we want to make this almost glow, right? So you can already kind of see the change of the yellow, and then what we're going to do is select the whole thing and then crank up the saturation again. So we're cranking up the saturation on the yellow shirt as well as the whole image. And then we're going to pump up the contrast, and you can see that really, like, he looks like he's got like a tan. It almost looks very like Instagram filtery, which is great because who is your competition in Facebook? It's like Instagram photos, people sharing photos from their vacation of their adorable kid and putting those cool filters on them. So really kind of pump up the colors, make them contrast. You almost want it to glow. You almost want it to glow off of a screen. So make it just undeniably colorful. Some search tips for stock photos. I know people hate using stock photos, but not every one of us has a photographer on hand to do a photo shoot. So look for emotion-based keywords. So when we looked for like dads, we wanted like dads, kids, plus like an emotion keyword, which means like happy or excited or loving, proud, relieved, confident, frustrated, right? So you're going to find enough people who are in suits to really to relate to your business blog, or you're going to find people who are in, you know, just everyday wear. Doesn't have to be super literal. Emotion-based keywords really work the best. Skip pretty much any portrait style image because most images are shared in social at a landscape in a landscape orientation, and it's really difficult to translate a portrait style image into a landscape. Skip washed out images or images that are predominantly white. It can be a really cool tactic to use, like a black and white photo every once in a while, because it does pop out and look a bit different. But if it's, you know, like too whitewashed, skip it. If they're wearing like khakis, white t-shirt on a white background, no, look for something else. Real looking, it does exist. But so remember, your competition, like I said, are like people's beautiful Instagrams of their travels, delicious food, and adorable children, which I gotta say, this kid just makes me, he stops at them every time. And your competition are, you know, content outlets that invest thousands on the writers, the speakers, the designers for this custom image. They invest thousands in like the production of it. So like your competition is pretty stiff. Ultimately, takeaways. Yeah, your organic may be gone, but targeting is dead-eye, and you can target writers, PR people, and you can target the ones who are actually interested in the stuff that you're writing about. Definitely important to set your conversion goals and optimize towards them. That'll give you more bidding capabilities when it comes to promoting in Facebook. And then packaging is so critical. Like I said, I could talk a whole hour about that, about writing. Most important, draft a couple different packages and share it more than one way. Images are really the heroes of social, so make sure you pick an image that's a winner, that has bright colors, that really contrasts Facebook. Weird, like I'm going to say again, weird works. It just does. So that is all I have for you today, and we have a couple minutes for Q&A, and I'm excited to answer some questions.
Fantastic. I'm going to dive right in, but we're going to get to some of these great questions that have come in, so stay tuned. I have just a couple quick questions for you myself, though. Do you think Google is connecting the dots these days? I'll give you an example. I have a website, byronwhite.ceo, that I use for speaking gigs. I also blog over on Idea Launch. I also blog over on Writer Access. But then we've got a Facebook Byron White account. But we've got a Facebook, Writer Access account, Facebook Idea Launch account. You think Google is putting this all together and recognizing me as an author, particularly when they begin looking at, the who I am and what connections I'm getting and what response I have? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So we all know what happened to authorship. Google kind of they played around with it and were really excited about it, and then it kind of went away.
Yeah.
I think that Google certainly has that data. They're Google after all. I believe they have that data, and they're attempting to connect the dots, and maybe it just didn't work quite right away. But I think that they know, and whether it really impacts a whole lot right now, I think it certainly will in the future.
Next question. I want to ask you about what I call social responsibility. Okay. Do you feel that we have a responsibility to the community, our fans and friends and followers we have in the social sphere, to touch their heart or to make them feel part of a community or to cheer them up or to discover or relay some meaning to them, to tell them what's new? Do you feel like there is a responsibility we have? And if so, how would you define that responsibility?
Ooh.
Oh, I like
that could be a loaded question. I mean, yeah, I do think that we as content marketers and writers have a responsibility, and I mean, certainly depending on, journalists have a responsibility, have more like ethical responsibilities than like just your run-of-the-mill blogger, and have responsibility for being accurate and writing about timely events. So I think it's important for us as writers. I really hate to see inaccuracies online, so I think it's important that, we as writers do our due diligence to be accurate. And I mean, yes, like this could be a conversation that goes on forever, but I think that ultimately we have a responsibility not to waste users' time. So I've seen many a blog post that people want us to promote or, we want to share, and I just say, like, ugh, it's really not valuable. It's really not. So, like, really, like, take a step back, look at what you wrote, and say, like, is this really valuable? Is it? Like, is it great? Is it going to put a smile on someone's face? Or is it just going to waste their time?
Excellent one. Okay.
I just want to hop in real quickly. Mary, could you put your takeaways slide back on? We've got a couple of people asking for it. Thank you so much.
Great. So another question. The ability to promote to a targeted audience, particularly with Facebook and LinkedIn now, is really remarkable. But do you think that, what do you think is most engaging? And do you think that we need some do's and don'ts as we promote ourselves and our products and services? And by the way, those are two separate questions, perhaps. For example, don't sell. Do share good information. Do make life better. Be creative with how you do all of this. Think about the sales funnel. I mean, as we target more people, do we need to think deeply about those people and their needs and where they are in our funnel? How do you think that through? And do you have different messages you're sending to these different people that we can target? And how do you think about them? And do you write for them, which is another interesting question, for the particular target that you're carving out?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, yes, write for your audience. It's so important. So recently I wrote a blog post that really took inspiration from Stephen Sondheim's documentary. It's on HBO if you have it. I think you can find it on YouTube for free. But Stephen Sondheim, if you don't know him, is a composer and a writer of music for Broadway, one of the most famous ones and one of the most beloved. He wrote Sweeney Todd, Into the Woods, the ones that are being translated to film because the music is so good. I encourage you to check out that blog post because, yes, it's all about writing for your specific audiences and using words that they would really use in their own day-to-day life. And just about writing for your character, for your audience, yes. Write for your audience. It's so important to kind of understand like where their head is at. And it's always writing these packaging blog posts is like a mini ad writing assignment every time I step into it. So if it's taking you, more than 20 minutes or more than you think it should to craft a really great package for your piece of content and only one, that's okay. Like, it's going to be hard and it's going to take time. And like, greatness takes time. So don't beat yourself up if it's not coming organically and you just can't like write an update and a headline and a link description in 5 minutes. It's going to take more time than that. We're doing lead gen right now for a company that is all about increasing accessibility for people who are disabled, specifically in wheelchairs. So our ad copy says, use a wheelchair, ? We're specifically calling out to those people in wheelchairs because it's not a category on Facebook. So we're targeting, people who have wheelchair sports in their interest, people who like specific wheelchair types and brands, and then we have like disability associations, and diseases and disorders that cause disabilities that would put someone in a wheelchair. And so we found, like we're going to target the people who are in wheelchairs and serve them ads that say, in a wheelchair, ? Join our community. And then we have another set of ads for the disability associations, because certainly the caregivers, the parents of people in wheelchairs are just as involved or just as impacted by inaccessibility when they go out with them. So we changed the copy there to say, if your parent, loved one, or patient is in a wheelchair, we want to hear from you. So really it is about the different messages, and it can make a grand difference.
In that example, talk with us about the separation of church and state. And what I mean here is, creating this new community for this customer. They probably didn't have a community that offered informational advice and tips and resources for people in a wheelchair that wanted to be part of a community that was all about making their life best, smarter, better, faster, and wiser. Do you feel that community is critical when you're advertising and promoting on Facebook? That you need that information, that community feel, and you want to separate from that from the products and services that the company sells?
Yeah, well, I think in this case, what's really surprising, because we thought this was going to be much harder and more expensive than it turned out to be. It's turning out to be incredibly successful, and I'm really excited about it. But I think a lot of the success is not only packaging and targeting, but it's also about reaching, like you said, a community that exists, but they're all separate now. So we're providing them a rally point to come together and make a difference for one another and the world. So it's kind of it's marketing hope, it's marketing inspiration, and it's giving them like a service that really didn't exist before, and there was a definite need.
I want to go to some questions from our listeners, and thanks for your patience. So here's a question. For a small business, less than 5,000 fans, trying to build their engagement and click-throughs, what bid for CPC do you recommend? And that relates to Facebook, I think, when you were going through that.
Certainly. So first, I'll just say this in case there's anyone out there who's doing a fan or a like campaign. Stop doing that right now. Ultimately, like, you want people to get to your site based on what you're talking about, and you don't want to grow just your likes on Facebook. Yes, you want more likes on Facebook. Yes, you want more followers on Twitter, but you want those to be focused, and you want them to like you or follow you because of what you're talking about, and that's about content. So first of all, no like or fan campaigns at all. Second, what bidding strategy would I use? I would use clicks, or I would use conversion. So if you are a smaller organization, and we'll see, maybe you're promoting a white paper, and to get that white paper, you have to submit an email address. What you want to do is put your conversion pixel on the thank you page for that download of the email address, so then you can really optimize and let the system or the machine understand, like, look, I only want to pay $5 for this lead, or maybe it's $10, maybe it's $15, but you tell them what you need to pay, and the algorithm really looks at people's attributes and pushes your content towards people who they think are going to click and convert. So ultimately, more about clicks and conversions than bidding for engagement. Engagement is great to have on social, but getting people to your website is more important. That's what you own. And then you can own those audiences going forward by cooking them and retargeting them in Facebook, in search, in display, everywhere. So once you get them to your website, you own them. You own them. If they're engaging and doing this, that, and the other thing on Facebook, you don't own them at all.
Great answer. How effective is job titling, since not everyone includes their work experience on Facebook? Is Facebook getting any secret sauce from, say, LinkedIn? Are they have a little secret partnership there that's helping the targeting?
I doubt it. So I doubt that. But to be honest, like, Facebook is the place where people are more. Like, they're on Facebook more than Google. They're certainly on Facebook more than LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is really tied to B2B in people's minds, and they say, if you're going to do B2B targeting, it has to be in LinkedIn. Not true. True professionals are never off duty, even when they're on Facebook and scrolling through and, like, looking at the latest Game of Thrones spoiler. Like, I'm still an internet marketer and still susceptible to those messages. Even if I were a long-distance truck driver, like, my back is still going to hurt when I'm looking through Facebook, and I'm going to be thinking about maybe getting some extra, like, lumbar support for my truck. And so it's really important that we understand that Facebook can be, like, a way to approach professionals in a more casual environment that's not all about selling and not all about, buy my product. It's all about nurturing that person. So yes, job titles in Facebook are updated pretty regularly. I can't tell you the last time I updated my LinkedIn profile. It doesn't have my most current job title, I can tell you that. So I think Facebook people are just more active, they're more engaged, and I do think that they update their job status there, especially for working professionals. But the other thing is you can find job titles in the interest targeting in Facebook. And so oftentimes I'll find that targeting job titles in the interest targeting field is almost more efficient and more effective than targeting job titles via the job title targeting field. So worth testing both for sure.
Many people are struggling with this thirst that Google has for us to publish frequently. So we're banging out more blog posts and more assets than we ever have before, and seeing some results from that. Publishing a steady stream of content is a very good, healthy thing. We all know that. But are you being selective with what you're pushing out to your social sphere, for example, or are you by default taking every one of your blog posts and making a Facebook post out of it?
We are certainly selective about which posts we promote. So we only want to promote the ones that, like, really matter. So I'm not going to promote a post where, like, we recapped, like, what I talked about at a certain conference, or, like, promote the fluffier blog posts.
When you say promote, you're talking about paying to promote. Posts,
yes.
Yeah. You might be publishing them on your Facebook post, announcing to the world that you've made a blog post, but you're not promoting it or wasting time or money to promote things that are not worthy.
Right.
Correct. Got it. Okay.
But also, check out we have seasonal things that happen every year, and it's certainly worth, like, not having to rewrite your Thanksgiving blog post every year. You can just reshare it, maybe update it.
Thoughts on SlideShare? I noticed that was not included in the poll or anything you talked about today.
Yeah, certainly. So SlideShare is certainly worthy, and also depends on what industry you're in. We personally don't use SlideShare because it's too easy for people to steal our content and then just repurpose it for themselves. And so we tend to not like that.
Here's a question. I'm a B2B. We probably don't have time for too many questions, but here's a really good one. If I'm a B2B company where the decision maker I want to target is a C-suite of healthcare organizations, is LinkedIn the best platform to use? Would Twitter or the blogger platforms you mentioned target this audience? I get the feeling top executives of healthcare organizations don't hang out on Twitter or blog sites for content. Am I wrong? We get this question all the time. Our account managers here. You know, what's the best platform? Your thoughts?
So,
which, by the way, might
LinkedIn
summarize your entire presentation in 2
LinkedIn
sentences.
It's certainly a valuable place to be. We often see a lot of education people there, a lot of sales people really engaging in that space. And yeah, so you can target by seniority and then industry in LinkedIn. But the great thing is Facebook just rolled out targeting that looks exactly the same in their own platform. So now I can target whether it's upper-level C-suites and executives to high-level managers by like that job seniority, and I can target by industry in Facebook now. So like this is maybe months old. Facebook targeting. So if you tried to do this a year ago and you kind of got stuck or couldn't find the right people, check again. Facebook is always rolling out new targeting parameters and not telling a single soul about it, which is absurd to me. So yes, you can target by seniority and industry in Facebook now, and it's so exciting. And like I said, like people are on Facebook just way more. Like they just are. You can also qualify them by income. So doctors or like high-level people at medical facilities tend to make a good, healthy income, right? So you can target, executive C-suites in the medical field who make over $100,000.
Do you put your data in though? I mean, who puts their salary information into Facebook? I'm just pointing that out. It's like it's a tough call.
So Facebook gathers that information from third parties. So this could be your credit card activity. This could be your U.S. Census data. This could be any sort of data that you've given up. But like it's very much like third party, hard to fake kind of data.
Yeah, that's what I think is going on behind all of these things.
You can even target people by how old their house is or how big it is.
Fascinating.
Yeah, property size.
Here's a good one. I can't help myself here. Love your thoughts on these answers. When posting blog content on Facebook, do you include the link in the copy or delete it as a link window allows clicking through? Are you using Facebook to build link popularity? That's the interesting net of that question.
Yeah, so I don't think having the link in 2 different places is going to do much in terms of like the link building. However, I think it's very fine to add a bit.ly link to the end of maybe like your update. I think it's unnecessary for the most part because people kind of understand that when you click on the image or the headline, you are taken to that blog post. But I think that there are also portions of the online user population who are just like really ingrained and trained to click on things that are blue text and underlined. So I think it doesn't hurt. You don't need it. I wouldn't leave the big long URL in there. I'd do a shortened one, but certainly not just only the URL. So you want copy in there and shorten it if you're going to have it there.
Question for you on images. I was surprised that you didn't talk a little bit about Google image search and taking these newly crafted images that your team or whoever is creating. and popping them on Google image search, and then getting some action potentially or travel just from the images themselves. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think in those cases you might want to have your content title or something about your content in text in that image.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's a certainly fine idea.
And I didn't, you were doing some manipulation of the images, but don't you think creating original artwork is really where it's all going? And if we continue to use these stock libraries, that our imagery will reek of stock to the point where, oh, I've seen that before.
Yes.
Thoughts on the brave new world of creating original imagery and how important that may be moving forward?
Yes, absolutely. If you have the budget and the wherewithal to hire a designer to do custom images, yes, do that. But we have some really talented ones. We do custom images for a couple of our clients, and gosh, they look so cool. They look so cool. But I do know, like, it takes a lot of time, and it does cost money. Designers, especially the good ones, aren't cheap. And so, really treating the images from stock, and there are a couple image sources where you can find images that are more, seem like someone actually took them with their iPhone, or, like Instagram them. So there are a couple different image sources that are also free. Creative Commons, I like to use the ones where you can, like, distribute and promote for free. I love using those because they look real. They do look real.
Yeah, with Sarah, Kirsten, Neil, a lot of questions pouring in now about photography. We'll probably talk all afternoon. A couple more quick ones, so I'll read them quickly and you can bundle them all up. Can you suggest some free, easy-to-use tools for image processing? What program are you using to edit photos? What about adding words and short bits of copy to images? Any experience with that? Maybe you can answer those three quickly.
All right. Okay, yes. Add text to your image. Yes. I do love using, like, a quote or, like, some piece of text from the content in there, or the content headline, whatever it is. Make sure it's not too intrusive. Also on Facebook, it has to be under 20% of the entire image, just FYI. Really great tactic for Twitter, because Twitter doesn't look at the image and how much text is in it, so you can get away with a lot more there. A couple image tools. So I used Pixelmator. I'm on a Mac, so I use Pixelmator. It's about $20 and it's Mac only, but it gives me, like, enough tools to play around with images. It gives me enough and not too many. Loads pretty quickly. When I was on a PC, I used GIMP, which is very similar to Pixelmator, and I'm pretty sure that's free. So check those out, because I know Photoshop can be really expensive. Some image tools. So I use, let's see, there's one that has free photos. It's called Pexels. And if you do www.pexels.com, Pexels, so it's like pixels but with an E. That's a free image search, and they're really beautiful images. They don't look too stock. They're pretty interesting. Like right now, I'm looking at a cow's legs on roller skates, on vintage roller skates. It looks weird, but lovely. Interesting. Yeah. So those are a couple that I like, and then I like the Creative Commons for the free to distribute and share.
Sarah just reports she just downloaded GIMP and it's free. It has been so fantastic. One more question came in about selfies and/or images you take on your own. Also huge. Original photography needs to become the forefront, don't you think? More personalized, more direct. How much are you using that yourself now? Are you daring to take your weekend photos and pop them on your blogs and do creative things and make it more personal?
Hey, you know what, like that's what we've been advising our clients. We say, you know what, like take pictures of you guys in the store, you know, like working on cars, take pictures of like you behind the counter, like, and we want, like, we give them a little guideline of like frame it well, so like, you know, like you have the brand in the background, but not like obstructively. You know, make sure you crop in close on the face, and we give them a little guideline and a cheat sheet. So yes, use your own pictures. Like everyone's walking around with a camera. We think it's really important. We hire